Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to Course Curate. In this video, we're going to go over how to build a voice controlled desktop agent using ChatGPT. So let's just hop into the demo. Please click the Windows volume. Alright, just like that, hands up, worked right all by itself. ChatGPT went through and clicked on my actual desktop, my actual screen. I will say this application is not 100% accurate with where it clicks, but it is pretty decent. But now let's just hop into the development side. Well guys, so once you are in your VS Code, go ahead and create a new file. Just go ahead and create a new file. So I've already created one here and call that new file main.py, right? So obviously you're gonna have to create a project folder and then create this file inside of it. And then if you would like, create a virtual environment. If you don't know what that is, just don't really worry about it too much for now. But if you do, you can go ahead and create one. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do once we're in main.py is we're just going to import all of the utilities we're going to be using. Obviously, I'll explain each of these more as we use them, but for now, just go ahead and copy this all down. Then over here, what we're doing is we're creating an OpenAI agent. So again, just copy this into your file right here. And then what you're going to have to do to make this OpenAI key populate is you're going to have to create a file called .env. And in this .env file, just create it in your same project directory. Create a key called OpenAI key equals, and then go ahead and get an OpenAI key um, from your OpenAI account. If you don't know how to do that, I'll leave some tutorial in the description of how to do that. But go ahead and get your key and go ahead and paste it right over here. So now that we're done with that, go ahead and write this little function over here. This function, the only thing it's doing is it's going to take the screenshots we provide of our screen and change them into base 64 so then we can properly pass them into the model. Again, I'm not explaining these in depth because this is not really AI stuff. This is just stuff to make the application work. So go ahead and just copy this all into your terminal or into your application, and then let's continue with the code. So now we're going to write the code to actually take a screenshot of your screen, right? So we're going to create a new variable called screenshot, and it's going to equal pi auto GUI dot screenshot dot screenshot. And so what this does is when this runs, it just literally takes a screenshot of your screen and saves it to this variable right here. The reason why we're doing this is so that all of the images are kind of created by PyAutoGUI and saved in PyAutoGUI. If we go ahead and put an outside image, sometimes the sizing can kind of change up. So it's better to just take the screenshot from PyAutoGUI just like this and save it into a variable. And so once we've done that, what we're going to do is we're going to create two variables called screen width and screen height. And we're going to set that equal to screenshot.size. Right, screenshot.size. Okay, perfect. So the purpose of this is what it's going to do is it's going to get the height and width from my screenshot and set that to the screen width and screen height, which is going to be important when we're actually calculating where to click on the screen based on the response from GPT. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use our function we previously defined, base64 image, and we're going to pass in our, going to say encode image, and then we're going to pass in our screenshots. Now it can be saved as base64. Perfect. Now what we're going to do now that we have a screenshot is actually create our function to record the audio from the user. So we're going to create a new function that record audio. Okay, no parameters. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use our speech recognition library right here, right, which we imported as SR. And here what we're going to say is recognizer equals SR dot recognizer. So we're creating a new recognizer right here, and with SR dot microphone as source. So again, these are kind of inbuilt to speech recognition, right? So you can see here, right, represents a physical microphone on the computer, right? Recognizer creates a new recognizer instance which represents a collection of speech recognition functionality, right? So it's just using the functionality of this package to actually pick up our speech here. So again, this is not AI related stuff, but it's still kind of cool and it's definitely important to this application. So here we're gonna print please speak your command, just like you saw in our demo. please speak your command. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna call the listen method on this recognizer that we created. Right, and we're gonna call this source. Okay, perfect. So we're gonna save that to audio. So now we're gonna create a temporary file with temp file named temporary file. Delete. It's gonna equal to false. Suffix is .wave for our audio. Then we're gonna say as temp. So now we're gonna write to that file audio.get data. So now we're just basically saving the recorded data from what the user said to the microphone. So now we're just gonna return temp.name. Perfect. Perfect. So now we're gonna create a function to transcribe the audio, right? So now we've recorded it. Now we actually need that audio as text. So let's say def transcribe audio. It's gonna take in a path, right? Path to our temp file. And we're gonna say with open. We're gonna open up our file. Right, so now our transcription is going to equal to client.audio.transcriptions.create. So this is just using their inbuilt functionality for transcription. And we're going to set our model to whisper1. Right, so this is our text transcription model. File is going to be audio file. Perfect. And now we're just going to return the text from that transcription. Perfect. So now we have our two core functionality here for our audio recording and for our audio transcription. So next thing we're going to do here is create our function for clicking on the screen. So this function is actually going to be passed into GPT as a tool. If you don't know what GPT tools are, I will leave more information in the description, but GPT tools are basically ways for GPT to actually call a function in your own code, so it's actually pretty cool. What GPT will do is it will output the arguments to that function in a very specific format, and then you can basically parse out those arguments and then use it in your actual function. So I will show you guys how to do that in a second once we get to that part, but for now we'll just create the function to click on the screen, right? So we're going to need an x coordinate and y coordinate for where to click. Button, so button is like left to right click, middle click, and then clicks for the number of clicks, right? So double click to open something, for example. So now we're going to use again PyAutoGUI to interact with your screen. Dot click. Then our x coordinate is going to be our x coordinate, y coordinates will be our y coordinate. Our button will be button clicks equal clicks. Alright, perfect. There we go. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to define this as a tool that GPT can use. So what this is going to do is it's basically going to allow GPT to understand what this function is, how it works, what it's supposed to do, and what these arguments are, and what it's supposed to output for those arguments. So what we're going to do is we're going to create tools equals, okay, open square and open curly. Right, so the type is a function. If you guys want the format of this, you can go on OpenAI's website. I'll leave it in the description, where they show all the tools and how you're supposed to format it and stuff like that if you want more info on this. So the name of our function here is going to be click. The name of our function is click. Okay, and then our description. So this will be passed to the GPT so the GPT knows what this actually do. Description. Oh, sorry, description. Put on the screen. There we go. Strict, so this is basically going to force it to output in the specific format that we want. Even if this is on or off, it doesn't really matter too much for this simple example here. But these are the parameters that will be passed into our actual function. So type object required right, so excellent. And I will explain what this norm actually means over here in a second as well. So y norm, and then we're going to need our button, and then we're going to need our clicks. So what x norm and y norm is basically it's going to tell the GPT to actually output in the range of 0 to 1. So it will get the image, and the x and y coordinates will be from 0 to 1, and then we will scale those to the size of our screen. So I found this has better accuracy, right? If you tell it to actually just do x and y coordinates, sometimes the image gets resized when it gets passed into GPT, and so it doesn't give the correct coordinates. But if you ask it for in terms of 0 and 1, we can then rescale it properly to our actual screen, and it will have greater accuracy. So, clicks. Perfect. Now, properties. So properties will give it some more information about what this is actually supposed to do. So x norm, x norm, so it's going to be a number. Oh, sorry. Type number, and then we'll give it a minimum of 0. Right, so this goes back to what I was just talking about, maximum number of 1. Perfect. Now we're gonna give the info about the y norm, which is basically the same exact thing. So again, the type is gonna be number here. We can actually just copy and paste this, but it's the exact same thing here. There we go. Great, so now button. So it's gonna be a string, right? Representing the type of button, so type string. Then the description will be, we'll just say mouse button to click. So mouse button to click. And we'll give it some examples here, right? So left, right, middle. Cool. And clicks. Oh, looks like I accidentally did something here. Ignore that. I don't know what I did. Alright, clicks. So here we're gonna have type. It's gonna be a number. So again, right, number. Description very simply, number of times to click. Perfect. So now our additional properties are going to be false. We don't have any additional properties here. Alright, good. So now we've defined our tool. So later on, we'll be passing this into GPT for GPT to actually use. So our next step here is to set our audio path equal to the output from our function record audio. Right? Then our user instructions, this is whatever the user says to his mic, is going to be the output of transcribe audio path. So we're just transcribing that audio recording. Perfect. Now we're going to create our prompt. So I'm going to set prompt text equal to open parentheses. Then here we're going to create a string with f in the beginning so we can actually input variables and things like that. And so here the first thing we're going to do in our prompt is put user instruction, right? So the first thing that GPT will see will be, click on my desktop, or click on my whatever, right? And then after that we'll say use the tool, right? Because it will get the tools applied to click on the appropriate coordinates on the screen, right? Continue here. The screenshot size is, we'll give it our screen width by our screen height, with the top left being 0, 0, and the bottom right being, and this we're gonna again pass through the screen width and screen height because this is gonna be all the way on the bottom. It's gonna be like the maximum coordinates. So screen width, screen height, perfect. That's good for our prompt. Then here we're actually gonna create a request to GPT. So we're gonna say response equals client.responses.create. So this is using the GPT API, right? The OpenAI API. Then we're gonna define our model. Sorry, this is client create. There we go. So our model, I'm going to use GPT 4.1. I would recommend to use GPT 4.1 unless for some reason you want to try out other models, which you could. That would be pretty cool. And I'm just going to stick with this for now. And so here's going to be our input, right? So our input, our role is going to be our user because we're just passing in a prompt from the user. And we're going to have our content. Sorry, our content. Sorry for this thing. This is kind of giving information about the API here. It's kind of covering the screen. So our content, first of all, I can barely even see this. Content, we're gonna create open parentheses, close parentheses, type type is gonna be input text because we're just inputting text, we're not inputting an image right now, right? And the text we're gonna input is just gonna be our prompt text that we already defined. Prompt text. Alright, perfect. Then now we also need to import our image, right? So here we're gonna have type equals, as you could probably guess, or type colon equals input image, right? And then our image is gonna be our image URL. So image URL, which is gonna be data image base 64. And here's gonna be our base 64 image, base 64 image. Perfect. And this is just giving info about like the formatting of the image and stuff like that to the actual GPT, to the actual API. And for tools, right? So for tools, we're going to do tools equals tools. It's that simple. And we have our tools, just like that. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to create our tools call. So we're going to say tool call equals response dot output 0. Perfect. I'm going to say args is going to equal to JSON.loads. So this is basically going to get the arguments that the GPT passes back that we're going to use in our function. So now we're going to save our screen width and height in these W and H variables here. There we go. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take our normalized coordinate, right? So the normal coordinate is what the GPT is passing out. It's going to be between 0 and 1. And we're going to take that coordinate and scale it to our actual screen by multiplying it by the screen width or the screen height. So here for our x coordinate, we're going to cast this to an integer and we're going to say args x norm. So we're taking the x norm argument from what is outputted and we're going to multiply it by our screen width, right? So by w. And for a y coordinate, basically the exact same thing, except we're just going to do it with the y norm and with our y screen width, height in this situation. Cool. And then for our buttons argument, we're going to save it in a variable just called button. So button equals args button, just like that. And then clicks equals args clicks. Perfect. Just like that. And then now we're actually going to call our click function that's actually going to click on the screen. So xy button clicks, just like that. And then we're going to say print. And then here we're just going to print out some stats. So here you don't actually have to do this if you don't want it, just to see kind of what the x coordinate and y coordinate were in your terminal in case you just want to check that data. So I'm just going to do it here. So here we're going to say x coordinate, then we're going to do /n for a new line, or \n for a new line, y coordinate. It's going to be our y value, right, \n for a new line. Button will be our button variable. Once again, \n. Clicks will be our clicks variable. Perfect. There we go. Now we're also going to print the prompt text just so we know what was sent into the GPT model. Alright guys, so now we're done with the build. Now you should be able to run this, say your command, and it will click on your screen just like we saw in the demo. Alright guys, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have finished building the tutorial. You can use this for resumes. You guys can put this on GitHub. You guys can put this anywhere you want. I will leave a GitHub link to this project in the description, so you can go there. There are installation instructions if you want to just install it and just use it yourself and check it out without building it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.